Good evening from Washington. This is the Ingraham Angle, and we have another important hour to bring you on this Friday night. No time to waste. Out of ideas. Wow, the Democrats have turned to the same dog-eared playbook over the DACA deal. You got it, race. And an update to an explosive story we brought you last night. We were the only show to highlight a heroin ring that was busted in Denver, Colorado. We have new details exclusive tonight on the legal status of these creeps. And do you know the full story behind Dick Durbin? The man in the middle of the latest Oval Office imbroglio. We have an important backstory on him tonight. But first, Democrats race against reality. That's the subject of tonight's angle. All right, when they're cornered and they're out of options, Democrats have a nasty, but it's a really predictable habit of racializing everything. They did it to Reagan. They did it to Bush. They even did it to McCain. And, of course, they did it to Romney. And they've been doing it to Donald Trump since the day he announced his candidacy.
First, we have to deal with the fact that the xenophobic rant he went on and on about Mexicans and them being racist and criminal. I mean, it was horrible.
God, even the notion that he talks in seems fictitious.
It's
Is
crazy.
that too strong a word?
No, it's not too strong a word. I mean, I also think it's racist. I think we can use that word.
Well, it didn't work then, and it won't work now. But they're trying. Yesterday, Senators Durbin and Graham, they wanted to foist their bipartisan DACA deal on the president. And by the way, Dick and Lindsay's Immigration Act is about as viable these days as Siegfried and Roy's. Okay, we've seen this before. Well, they pranced up to the White House for the grand unveiling, and they were flummoxed when immigration stalwarts, Congressman Bob Goodlatte from Virginia and Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, were already in the room, as was White House policy advisor, immigration expert Stephen Miller. Remember, just a few days earlier, when the cameras were rolling, the president said he would not sign any DACA deal without the funding of his wall and an end to chain migration and that stupid visa lottery system. Yet somehow the dynamic duo thought that they could, through charm and flattery alone, con Trump into agreeing to their solution that didn't meet the president's baseline. And actually, if you can believe it, their idea increased chain migration. The president, to their faces, said it was dead on arrival. Good for him. Durbin and Graham were so enraged after being spurned, somebody went to the press. They peddled the story that Trump had referred to Haiti and unspecified African countries as S-holes, and that we should try to get Norwegian immigrants here instead.
His comments said things which were hate-filled, vile, and racist, calling the nations they come from the exact word used by the president, not just once, but repeatedly.
Now, the president in a tweet this morning denied that he used that language, and Durbin clarified later that the president was referring to African countries whose citizens regularly use the visa lottery system, not Haiti itself. Now, setting aside the alleged remark for a moment, would you describe any of these countries as Shangri-La? I mean, if people there were living in Club Med, they wouldn't be trying to crash our borders. And I think it's important, don't you think, at this point, after all the verbiage, to take a look at some of the real facts about a few of the countries that can't keep their own people from leaving. Now, let's begin with El Salvador, a country I've been to many times that I've known very well for the last 30 years. Its capital has the highest murder rate in the world. Somalia, well, guess what? It's one of the largest state sponsors of terrorism, has one of the, is a safe haven for terrorists across the globe. And then, of course, Sudan, it's one of the 4 countries on the U.S. state sponsors of terror list, in addition to a lot of other bad facts. Now, I would not have called these countries what the president did, but they are rank with corruption, repression, and, of course, it's obvious, isn't it, that they offer their citizens little hope of a better life. In other words, they're hellholes. But for the Democrats and their media allies, who are forever feigning an affinity for the third world, facts don't matter. After all, race baiting the president is so much more fun.
The president is a white supremacist.
That is absolutely racism with steroids.
The president of the United States is racist.
We voted for a racist.
They're not whole countries. For one, Donald Trump isn't their president.
We have in the White House someone who could lead the Ku Klux Klan, somebody who could be the leader of the neo-Nazi.
When it came to the issue of, quote, chain migration, I said to the president, do you realize how painful that term is to so many people? African Americans believe that they migrated to America in chains.
Now, of all the things I've ever heard Tricky Dick Durbin say, that one perhaps could take the cake. Now, is he really suggesting that the term chain migration, which has been part of the vernacular surrounding the immigration debate for decades, constitutes some type of hidden racism? It's a code language? Well, I think maybe he's been talking to Joe Biden.
Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Remember the guy who's booing in the crowd? He had already too many mimosas early in the morning. Well, all of this demonstrates that the Democrats, Durbin, and all the rest, they had no real intention of working with the president on a DACA deal. I really don't think they did. Because if they were truly concerned for these DACA kids, dreamers, upwards of 30 years of age, well, I'll call them kids, well, they would give a little, and then they'd get a little. They knew the president couldn't accept what they were offering. But we know now what the real story is. They had zero intention of negotiating in good faith because somehow they thought they could guilt the president into siding with them. But I guess they don't really know him very well, do they? They are out of ideas and they have no solutions. The race card is the only one they have left to play. But look, despite the racial smears, the unfairness of it all, look at what Trump has already done for Black America. Black unemployment is at its lowest level since the Bureau of Labor Statistics started reporting the data back in 1972. It's at 6.8%. You know what it was in the middle of Obama's first term? 16.8%. Black family income fell by more than $900 per family during the Obama years. Fell. Just in the first 8 months of the Trump administration, Black family income has risen by more than $1,000. I'll take that direction any day of the week. With Chrysler now announcing plants moving from Mexico to the United States, the stock market booming and wages rising across the country due to Trump's tax cutbacks, America will thrive. Listen to Gary from Texas, a caller on my radio show this morning who expressed, I bet, how a lot of minorities really feel about this manufactured controversy.
Were you offended by what you heard the president say as an African-American man?
Not at all. He's trying to fight for this country and give Black people opportunities to get off these streets. We can't do it if we keep bringing folks all over the world with problems in that country. Doesn't mean we have to bring them over here and come into our city and then push our people back.
Well, those are the people the president is fighting for, people who want more economic opportunities. They're not anti-immigrant, but they want to take care of Americans first, the veterans sleeping on the street tonight, those with no opportunities, those who work hard but somehow maybe along the way got addicted to opioids. They need help. And no matter what Durbin or CNN says, that is a fact. The silent majority feels that the system is unfair, and you bet they want it fixed. And when Trump demands a better deal on immigration, one that's going to secure the border and keep illegals from competing with our citizens, like that caller, for jobs that they need, and he's fighting on behalf of all citizens. The president's fighting for blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians. You're here legally. You're an American citizen. He's fighting for you. And that's the angle. Joining us